We now have open floor. This is opportunity. If you're not a delegate, you're welcome to speak, to share, and actually delegates can speak as well. So,
Ben Bourne, Vice Affiliates Director. First thing I wanted to say, since I won't have an opportunity to tell you, by our next convention, we should have 2 new functioning affiliates, and that's really exciting. So, and the credit goes to the people in those affiliates, the Bockelmans and the Greg Black, who's also running for office and things like that. Has absolutely nothing to do with me. Second, I'd like to introduce our representative from Decriminalize Nature, Mike Williams. He has a pressing matter that he needs to speak about.
all right, Mike.
Thank you. So Decriminalize Nature, we were here, we spoke last convention. We are going for the 2022 ballot. We were approved by the state on February 11th, at which point when we went to print, I did catch an error that the state missed. So we are going back this Friday for reapproval. We're doing more than what we talked about last convention, so I just want to share that with you. We would still decriminalize all plant-based entheogens, so peyote, mushrooms, ayahuasca, etc. But this initiative would also defelonize all drug use with a maximum 1-year misdemeanor penalty for all drug use and possession. It would end arrests for residue and paraphernalia. It would remove drug checking equipment such as fentanyl test strips and drug checking reagents from the paraphernalia law. So people who do choose to use drugs can at least know what they're taking without harm of getting an extra felony charge for having testing reagents. We would also allow hospitals, hospital designated entities, doctors, and religious organizations to sell plant-based medicines. So it does allow some room for the medical industry to start to get the foothold. And then finally, it would allow remuneration for all individuals who are providing services with these substances, whether that's space holding or whatever. We have to do this in a record amount of time, 73 days. So we need, it's usually 180 days, but the deadline is June 1st, and we're already behind schedule. So we need canvassers on the ground. We need your help. We need money to help with the paid canvassers. And if you know any dispensary owners that we can get this in their shop, let me know.
Where do we donate?
Donate at my table or decrimnaturemi.org.
Excellent. I think you might have a few people willing to volunteer.
Thank you.
All right. Who else would like to take advantage of the open floor? Mary. Mary Bazan.
I just wanted to talk a little bit. It took a long time for me, and talking to some people last night about coming to the decision about running for governor again. In 2014, I ran. I was such a noob. Yeah. But I learned a lot, and I have a lot of lessons learned. But when I do this, I'm going to be in it to do it. I just don't want to be a name on a ballot, which means I'm going to need an army of people behind me. I'm talking about affiliates, I'm talking about volunteers, people helping me raise money, get to events. By the way, I put like 30,000 miles on my car, when I'm 23. But anyway, and that's what I'm going to need. So I need us all. Governor is a big race. You're really out there. So I'm going to need help, people, and I'm going to need us all to come together to do this. If you really want me to run for governor and do it correctly, then I need everyone to come together to help. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm going to continue on my pontificating that I started when I was nominating myself for delegate to speak in favor of, and I will be making a motion when we get to the appropriate part of the program to get this resolution accepted. It says it's near the end of the convention. I realize we might be short on time, so I figured here I'll throw a little more time into it right now. There is a resolution in your packet. I don't actually need to sit here and use up your time reading it, even though I guess there's no one waiting behind me. But the point of this is, basically it's an argument in favor. And I want you to make sure that we have time to vote on this at the end, because I think it is important. The point I'm making here is delegates go through a lot of trouble to get out to this convention that's, other than the people who happen to be in situ where the convention is, have to travel a significant distance to go to a national convention. And when you go to a national convention and you make a choice to who's going to be the officers of the LNC and of the Judicial Committee, what? Oh, I didn't know I was yelling. Okay, of the LNC and of the Judicial Committee and so on, that you expect that will to be respected. And we have a lot of diverse opinions here. What we should not have to expect is that whatever faction has the majority of the LNC gets to purge the minority faction from it and then go ahead and have everything their way. That is not acceptable, and I see it as an abuse of the authority of the LNC officers who voted to purge Ms. Harlos. And previously, Vora, in a previous convention, I see that as an abuse of power by them, that should be reserved for exceptional circumstances where the person is doing things that are completely out of character for why the person was put there, and those things are damaging to the party, or, and by the way, both the people I named may have done things you thought were damaging to the party, but they're just being themselves the way they were when they were chosen. Or a person who's involved in criminal activity that's become exposed and they are a liability for that reason. Other than that, we really should not be purging people off the LNC and using that authority that way. So that's why I have this resolution here. Thank you for your time.
Request for information.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, so the item 16 in our agenda was open floor / resolutions, and we indicated to take up time for open floor now. So would it be in order for Scotty to make an motion to attempt his resolution at this time?
Yeah, but open floor is open floor.
Open floor is open floor. So yes, we should be able to, if he wants to put forth the motion now and get it over with.
Scotty, you want to officially put your
do
finger
so.
in the nomination now?
It would be at his discretion.
Yeah, and apparently the intent of my motion was not well understood, or what I was just saying. So I will read the motion and speak to it, hopefully in clarification. All right, so here's the motion, and I'm going to move that we make this resolution as a party. Resolution calling on the LNC to respect the delegates' choice of secretary. Whereas National Convention delegates travel to national conventions at great expense, whereas one of the reasons they do this is to elect new Libertarian National Committee officers, and, by the way, am I shouting in that mic again? And whereas the current LNC has usurped the will of said delegates by purging elected secretary Carrie Ann Harlos from the LNC, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Libertarian Party of Michigan, demands, and I can see dropping the S as a friendly amendment, the resignation of all officers who usurp the will of the 2020 National Convention delegates, and the immediate reinstatement of Carrie Ann Harlos to the office of Secretary of the LNC. And my argument for it, as I was making, was that the delegates, when they vote at the National Convention and choose an LNC, that they expect those people to stay in unless extraordinary circumstances dictate otherwise, and I don't think those circumstances occurred this time.
Do we have a second for his motion?
Second.
There is a
I'd like
for the
to
motion.
second that motion and speak in favor.
Get in line.
Get in line.
Actually,
Get in line.
I believe since Scotty spoke in favor, then we would be looking for somebody who's speaking against. Brian, are you speaking against?
Of course. So, this resolution or something very similar to this was brought before the LEC a couple months ago, and it was disposed of after wasting some significant time talking about it. And I understand that it certainly is at this body's discretion to overturn the will of the executive committee. But I think that this is a waste of time. The national convention is in a couple months, and this issue will be resolved. This amounts to nothing more than cheap virtue signaling. It's a very divisive issue, and I just think we shouldn't touch it. Thank you.
We have somebody who would like to speak for. Will White, would you like to speak for the motion?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't want to jump the line. Yes, for those of you who don't know, Karen, she's the pink lady, pink hair lady that wears the Liberty foam hat at the convention. She's very active, very nice person, good Christian lady, and follow her online. She speaks the truth, and some people just don't like feisty women, I guess. But I'll speak in favor of this resolution. So what if it's a convention in 2 months, it'll be resolved? This is an issue now, and we need to show support now before the convention.
Thank you, Will. Would somebody like to speak against? Brandon.
I think this motion is nonsense on its face, to the extent that it's talking about the will of the delegates at the National Convention.
Can't hear you.
Those same delegates are the ones who approved the bylaws which provided the very procedure for this removal itself. We gave the power to the LEC. If we don't like how they exercised it, we can vote them out at the next election. But to declare that they've somehow forfeited their offices is, I think, absurd, and I believe it should be voted down.
Thank you, Brandon. James.
Jim Fullner, Macomb County. I consider Mrs. Harless a friend of mine. I first served with her on the establishment of the Libertarian Party Radical Caucus platform committee, where we reestablished an actual libertarian platform in the Libertarian Party. If you haven't read it, please do. Regardless, libertarians, particularly the last 10 years or so, have spent way too much time navel-gazing and worrying about what our LNC does, when the LNC really should just be a boring board that does boring board things. And the fact we've turned it into something online, dick showing is kind of ridiculous. I think it's a bad idea to pass this resolution, not only because it has no teeth, but it sets a bad precedent in the future for us to pass more silly resolutions instead of actually fighting to win libertarian elections. Thank you.
Seeing nobody else stepping up to the mic to comment, yes. Daniel.
I would like to note as a follow-up, though this resolution did fail an LEC vote, it was originated in the Libertarian Party of Wayne County, where it was passed with significant support.
Thank you, Daniel. Are you speaking on the motion?
Is that in favor?
That was in favor.
Okay, I'd like to speak against Ben Warren, Charlotte County. So, anyways, I like keeping our business, and not worrying about the national party. I said that at our last convention, and I think it's important Michigan works together, and we do everything we can to separate ourselves from national politics, because we've all seen how cancerous it is.
Seeing nobody else wanting to comment on this, do we have someone calling the question?
Call the question. Call the question.
Call the question?
Second.
And I hear a second. All in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
All opposed? We're calling the question. All right, all in favor of this resolution for Karen Ann Harlos, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
The nays win. Thank you. Did anybody have a time stamp, or did anybody pay attention to the time when this 30 minutes started? It was 12 after, and it is currently 27, so we do still have some open floor time.
Move to close open floor.
I hear a second. All in favor of closing open floor? Okay, let me try that again because that was a little spattering. All in favor of closing open
Request for
floor?
information before we vote.
Okay?
So if this motion passes, and we've ended open floor, do we then proceed to the election at that time, or is the rest of that 30 minutes taken up by nothing?
I think we should have a break. And I can certainly use it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So yes, I believe that we will use the remainder of the time for a break. So, all in favor of closing open floor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, we are all closing open floor, and the rest of the time will be break. And that would bring us back together at 10:42.